Yes. 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 Okay. So, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you here. My name is Gerardo de Lutzenberger, so I'm Italian, and I will be moderating this session together with Penny Hunt and also Sandra Dirk that will be working for the online participation. This is a policy workshop, and this is also, we design it as a hybrid workshop. So we will have some participants online joining the conversation, and that we will explain you how this will happen, okay? And when we have been designing this workshop, which is as you know, it's about new ways of working, we suddenly realized that the workshop itself, it's a new way of working. So we will be experimenting in some way a new way of working today, because we have one moderator online, we have all speakers online today, we have some participants online. We don't know yet how many, but we will know that later, and they will be discussing as well. And we will also be running with a tight schedule. So we have an hour, actually 55 minutes at the beginning. That was the idea. And as you know, we're running late and we have lunch right after. So we need to be on schedule in some way, okay? So this is the way we are going to work. Sorry. Okay, so we will be, first of all, listening to our speakers that will be connected online. So I will hand over in a minute the floor to Penny Hunt, which is online, and Penny will introduce to you the speakers. The speakers will be dealing with the question of this session, and the question is already on your table. Is what is emerging, what we are learning now about new ways of working. And it should be clear that we're not talking about the past. It's something it's really happening, and it's an ongoing experiment in some way. And then after the speakers, we will basically open the table conversation here in the room and online in a Zoom call with the participants, and then right after we will harvest what comes out, and we will hear a little bit more by our speakers. So, Penny, please, the floor is yours.
Gerardo, thank you, and a very warm welcome to everyone, whether you're in your kitchen, a room called Emerald, all over Europe, to our session called New Ways of Working, which, as you now realise, is all about patience, tolerance, and expecting the unexpected. We've designed this to be a conversation about, over the last 18 months, what just happened, a predictions-busting time, radical change in our lives, radical changes in how we work, some of us flourishing, some of us feeling isolated, one day insecure, the next day feeling you can innovate. We've just had COP, so front of minds is climate change, artificial intelligence, financial and social fragility. The dust hasn't settled yet, so today we're going to explore together what's emerging and note changes that are slightly deeper than, are you wearing fluffy slippers this morning? And have you mastered the Zoom button? Because as certainties are stripped away, deeper questions do emerge. Is this the sort of work I wanted to do? Is this how I imagined things would be? What is now open to me? What is now possible? So the spirit of today is curiosity, honesty, reflection, positivity. Help each other understand a little about what these changes are. Because if we can make sense, we can make plans. And to help us, we have 4 distinguished speakers with us, who will each be using their own specific lens to help stimulate our thinking and to help us prepare for this constantly changing future. whether it's how do we work together when we're isolated, or what stories are we telling ourselves about how we work and what our lives are now going to be like? What is the impact of technology? How can we get the most from it rather than be frightened? Each speaker has nobly stepped forward with the following brief, which was, could they think about what is emerging for them? At least two speakers have chosen an image, because sometimes that as a focus can help free us from old language. And they've been asked to keep absolutely brutally to 3 minutes. I know that's unfair, but if there's a sudden puff of smoke, it's not rudeness. It's simply we're trying to catch up time and make sure we run to schedule. And of course, some of our speakers have other places to be. I will ask each of them, if they wouldn't mind, just to remind us where they're calling from, because this is all part of the richness of the discussion. Can I first of all hand over to Irene? Irene Wennermo is the Director General of the National Mediation Institute of Sweden. And Irene, if you're ready, 3 minutes, if that's all right, and I will interrupt after 3 minutes and introduce Maria. Thank you.
She's coming.
No, I think it's working. That's great. Thank you very much for this invitation. I would love to come to Slovenia, but I have to stay in the cold and rather dark Sweden at the moment. I will talk a little about polarization of the labor market. Before the pandemic, we had a lot of focus on the labor market and the tendencies to polarization. That the number of high skills jobs are increasing, the number of medium skills jobs are diminishing, and we also have an increase of low skills jobs. And I think that the pandemic really has accelerated this development during, at least in Sweden, I would say, but I think in a lot of different other countries too. But I think that the focus on low skills jobs really a little blur the picture, because we also see strong tendencies to changes also in the low skills jobs. And when it comes to policy response, it's rather simple when it comes to these high skills jobs. We need a good education system, we need on-job training to really follow the development at the labor market. But when it comes to these low skills jobs, I would say that we have even bigger challenges. And we can see that in this low skills job, we have really strong changes during this period of time. And we can see also strong digitalization in the low skills job. We can take truck driver, for example. Earlier on, they were driving from a well-known point A to a well-known point B, and then they turn back. Today, they are in a very strong digitalized context. A computer is optimizing exactly which route do they have to go to minimize fuel consumption and maximize the different stops that they have to do. So it's a totally different job, I would say. So earlier on, for them, it was extremely important to learn complicated maps and remember it. Today, it's much more using digital tools, and you need, I would say, a higher degree of literacy in this new changed job. And that, I think that's the way in a lot of different low skills jobs, that it's more complicated than earlier on. There's a strong digitalization, where we go from more of manual skills to more digital skills, but also that a lot of different jobs really disappear. And they also have to change jobs much more often than earlier on. So it's really a new picture, and I think that we have to focus a lot, not just on the high skills job, but to a lot higher extent, I would say, on the low skills job, with the strong changes that it can see. So I'll stop there, and then I can come back to solutions later on. Thank you.
Irene, thank you very much. Immediately, our relationship with tech and how that affects our sense of control, and also having to retrain in very interesting areas. Irene, thank you. May I now hand over to Mario Marignello, the Senior Fellow and Future of Work and Inclusive Growth Project Leader at Bruegel. Mario, over to you.
Thank you very much, Benny. Thank you all for inviting me here. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to join you from Brussels, actually. So, apologies for my image, which is a little bit Black Mirror style. But I should say this is not really our future. I mean, I think it can be our future if we don't intervene with the right policy tools. So my basic insight here is that we are in the midst of a technological paradox. In theory, technology should primarily benefit the last ones. So those who don't have assets, with digital technologies, you can more easily access education, medical care, more jobs are created, opportunities, think about platform work, you can more easily set up a company and so on and so forth. But what we are seeing is that despite technological progress, societies are becoming more and more unequal. And it's in particular asymmetric access to technology, so the digital divide, which is a key driver of this inequality. So the dynamics that we observed during the pandemic are emblematic in that sense. So if you consider, for example, telework, that literally saved our economies, yet inequality increased because most of high-skilled, high-paid workers could switch to telework, but just 29% of low-paid workers could do the same. But telework had redistributive effects also in other ways. Another one is gender. Women tend to be more affected by so-called Zoom fatigue, for example. So having one video conference after the other with no breaks can be especially taxing for women. Or age. And so young workers at the beginning of their career are more penalized if they cannot be physically close to their senior colleagues. So you cannot simply say, let's all go remote. And you need to build a smart, inclusive environment where everybody has the same opportunities in the new telework setting. But my point is more general, and this is part of an overall trend with the use of technology in the workplace. And it suggests that we shouldn't be so much concerned about the quantitative effects of technology. I think we can reasonably assume that more jobs will be created than the ones that will be destroyed, but we should be concerned about the quality effect of technology on jobs. Because if technologies like artificial intelligence are empowering humans to go beyond their limits, they can also exacerbate the asymmetries in the distribution of power. So you can have, for example, employers that are able to monitor and control their employees much more easily. They can even read their emotions through affective computing. That's the meaning of my image. But it doesn't have to be like that. AI could be used, for example, to address safety issues, which is a long-standing issue with thousands of people in Europe dying in the workplace. It's a dramatic issue and can be addressed through technology. So at the end of the day, and this is my last point, it all boils down to define the right from, point one, define the right regulatory framework to protect workers from harm, but also design the right incentives, to adopt those technologies that can really enhance the conditions of the most vulnerable.
Mario, thank you very much. A stark reminder of the acceleration of where power is now distributed, and how interesting that as things change, do we actually know what our emerging needs are from technology? What does work give us as opposed to what do we give to work? Thank you very much. May I now introduce Iro Barra, Professor of Organisations and Impact at the Saïd Business School at Oxford. Iro, over to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Penny. It's a great privilege to be part of this conversation, and I'll be saying a few things about strategy work, which means basically making strategic decisions and plans in and around organizations. So this is an important topic, and I'll be just mentioning 3 themes or trends that we're seeing, as well as, if I just have the time, exemplify this with two examples. So the first trend that we are seeing, I'm not sure if the slide works, but that should be the first bullet point over there. And apologies for not having nice figures, but boring slide. Only one slide though with me. So this is increasing openness, which I think is a great positive trend that has been there already for some time. I think the pandemic has only emphasized the importance of including more people in decision making and becoming more transparent. Of course, this is not happening in every industry or in every company or organization, but it's an important trend, and as such, I think a positive trend, which is challenging our traditional ways of thinking about decision making and top management control. The second one is agility. I think it's a no-brainer in the sense that, if anything, the pandemic has shown a need to be able to seize the opportunities and to deal with all kinds of crises and threats that the pandemic has been posing on companies and other organizations. And the third trend is also very interesting because simultaneously, maybe because of the pandemic or maybe because of these other issues, such as climate change, people have become more aware of the need to have a broader relevance and meaning in and around organizations. And this is especially important for the new generations. So I think these are actually positive trends, but at the same time, it's really hard to live up to these expectations in terms of managing organizations or orchestrating strategy work. So I'll just give you two, interesting examples. One is game development companies that we've been following in the Helsinki area, and this is about Angry Birds. The picture is Angry Birds, but actually there's one particular company which is called Future Play, which I love because they have this motto of no bullshit. So their decision making is based on flat hierarchy and empowerment and focusing on the issues that matter. The other one I want to advertise is Wikimedia, which is the organization behind Wikipedia. So I had the opportunity to follow strategy making and their open strategy approach in their previous strategy process. If you're interested in that, they have developed a great strategy playbook, which is available online. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Eero, thank you very much. Great to imagine more openness also being more vulnerability and fragility, because once that is exposed, we all feel that we can participate, but also purpose and relevance. Are we becoming more humanized as we become more alert to the changes that are possible? I don't know, but Eero, thank you, and lovely examples. We will all be following those up online. May I now introduce Angelo Pagliara, member of the EESC Workers Group. And Angelo, if you're able to remind us where you are calling from.
Yeah, thank you. I'm calling from Rome. First of all, thank you for the invitation. It's a really pleasure for me to try to contribute to your works. So I know that the time is very limited, but I will try to stay in 3 minutes. Because there is a lot of things to say. As an example, I was totally agree with Mario when he was talking about increasing inequalities. But the starting point, in my opinion, is that the pandemic can't leave us indifferent, and nothing is going to be like before. I remember during the hardest month of COVID, we were all united and supported. And I think that now the question is what we have to do. And the picture I choose represents, in my opinion, the work during the pandemic, delivery rider in Milan during lockdown, the hardest month of COVID. And it represents the challenge of the work of the future. Because I think that COVID is a borderline. The modern work has changed and is changing. But we need to decide how change, for better or for worse. So this is the reason I think we have some reflection to do, some problem basis on this. The first is about teleworking. Mario was talking also about teleworking. During the pandemic, lots of people have been working from home. And I strongly believe that the only way to protect workers, separate teleworkers, separate professional from personal life, is to regulate telework. We know that maybe working from home became prevalent after the end of the pandemic. And if we are aware that what the world is going in this direction, we need to answer to some questions. As an example, how to ensure the protection and health of teleworkers? Who must pay the cost of telework? As an example, personal computer, electricity bills, telephone bills. I think it should be regulated by collective bargaining and social dialogue. And this is the only way for a social and sustainable change. And this is a challenge not only for unions, but also for employers associations. And then I think we have a second problem, because since the pandemic, but also before, we have a strong increasing of economic workers. Now I was talking about this before. Think about the delivery riders, the web pass to keep state. The work is regulated in many cases from a company or platform who are outside of the Union. And in many cases, they have no social protection, no sufficient wages, no rights, and we need to regulate it. And the better way to do also in this case, is social dialogue and collective bargaining. And this is what we are trying to do in some different European countries now. But we need to regulate also to avoid unfair competition, which they make, especially small business. And in this sense, also the online working is an opportunity as the company, but we need to ensure the right competition, respecting workers and citizen rights. So finally, talking about the change of the world of work, we must not forget that use of algorithms, organization, artificial intelligence, all these new challenges. As an example, we know that the European Union is working on this, and I think social partners need to be involved more, because the future impact of initiatives like digital market act, digital service act, or the regulation on artificial intelligence will impact hardly on the work of law.
Hello, thank you so much. A lovely summary of how perhaps our regulations belong to yesterday's world as opposed to tomorrow's, and how we should be thinking about the sort of changes that we want to see rather than simply following the coattails and trying to catch up. Thank you very much. Our next item is to look at visualization from our lovely Raquel, but I would like to hand over to Gerardo, if I may, to do that. Back in the Emerald Room.
Yeah, so thank you, Penny. You have probably seen among the speakers Raquel Ben-Gui. She's visualizing and harvesting the conversation from us. So can you please stream Raquel work for a moment? And Raquel, if you can tell us something about what you are harvesting of this complex topic. Please, Raquel.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Geraldo. It's my honor to listen to the conversation. And as you see here, the image is starting to take shape and will be added to, but I keep hearing polarity, difference, equality, inequality, openness, closing. So this tension between opposites. And that's what I'm hearing at the moment. Lovely to listen further.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We will see your work later as well at the end of the session. So, yes, please, back to the slides. Okay, so now the idea of this session is to open the floor to you. And we would like to ask you the same question we asked to the speaker. So what are you discovering? What are we discovering about new ways of working nowadays? What is emerging for you? And as you have seen, this can be looked from many different perspectives, okay? The way you work, the contractual part of the work. So it's really a complex thing to discuss. And the way we are going to do, we have some online participants. For the online participants, you will meet on Zoom breakout rooms, and you will be hosted by Sandra Dirk, that will be welcoming you in the online dimension of the conversation. And then we have you, the room participants, and you will be just talking to your neighbors at the table, okay? So that's the idea. And we will collect all the insight, the ideas you are getting using an app that is called Mentimeter that I guess you all know, or most of you know, and I will explain to you how to do that in a few moments, okay? For those that are online, this is the workshop presentation page on the conference app. And as you see down on the left, on the bottom left, you have click here to join the breakout session. And then you have another link that is click here for Mentimeter that you will be using right after your conversation in the session. So now the floor is yours. And the question is, what are you discovering about new ways of working in your daily practice? Okay, so the floor is to you, and you have 10 minutes, and we will be giving you the time while we are working. So, over to you. in a second. So, sorry, time is almost over. It's time to start harvesting your conversation. We do this using Mentimeter. You need to go to www.menti.com and then input the code that you have on the slide over there, or you can just use the QR code, and then you can insert the contribution. The insight came from your table. We are not just prioritizing things here. We are trying to make evident the complexity of this big topic. So please feel free to contribute. And I also invite you to start showing the results, please. Are the speakers going to see them in Zoom? The other one, first one. So, Werther, for the families, many people have not arrived in the age of digitalization yet. Flexibility and new ways of learning and work interaction, less CO2 due to less travel, better work and better work and personal life balance. Remote working is used more and more, offering a solution in the times of the pandemic. More. There is a. Okay. And can you please also scroll? You see the yes, down exactly, yes. So technology, finding new leads, more technology, flexibility. A lot of people have to learn how to talk one after another. We need to create new rules about work and work-life balance. Blended methodology, working from home, using more and more digital tools and education, or to say thing, remote working. So you see a lot of contribution. Thank you very much. Organize your day, employers trust, flexibility and work at home, trust and transparency, control and freedom, timetables and efficiency to get targeted, flexibility, and so on and so forth. Okay. So maybe it's time to call in again Penny Hunt. So please, can you give the floor to Penny and to our speakers for a final comment? Penny, can you hear me? Penny, can you hear me? Penny? I'm muted. I am muted. Penny, Penny? Can you hear me? Penny. Penny. Okay, we are back. Sorry, we had some technical issues, which is about new ways of working. So the floor is yours for the final comment from our speaker. And then we also have Rachel. Okay, so Raquel. So please. The floor is yours and of our speakers.
Gerardo, thank you very much. I was wondering if you had any headlines from the participants' contributions. that might influence our speakers who have been reflecting on what they've heard from each other.
Okay, you didn't see the headlines on stream?
Sadly, no. Sadly, no.
Ah, okay. Okay, so we will show them just in a second to you again. By the way, there was a lot of complexity in those contributions. So some people were looking at the political side, contract, working agreements, regulations. Some other were more looking at the personal side of this. And this is the stream, okay. You need to go up. Scroll up, scroll up. Penny, can you see it?
No, I'm afraid I can't, Gerardo. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I read it for you, just quickly, okay? A lot of comments about technology, impossible is possible. A lot of people have to learn how to talk to each other. You may be in many places at the same time. We need to create new rules about work time and work-life balance. Scroll down, please. Online meeting schedules have to be prepared for each discussion. Blended methodology, working from home, using more and more digital tools in education in most spheres of life. Too much communication. Scroll down, please. Scroll down, please. Less engagement, more exploitation, trust of company leaders is a big issue. New regulations working online is due to COVID measure and social distancing has brought up to the need of IT literate people. Organize your day, scroll down. New labor registration, it's convenient and have it on your own. Flexibility at work at home, flexibility, transparency, control and freedom, timetables and efficiency to be target-oriented, flexibility and being agile, belonging even virtually, work-life balance and mental health, lifelong learning. Using more technology, trust is super important at work and in the society. I hope you got some of this contribution, and I apologize for these troubles in this new way of working.
Beautifully done, and just what we're living with. It seems to me that because of the complexity, I might ask each speaker for 2 quick contributions, and I will go to Mario first, if I may, because of having to leave, which is firstly a personal discovery of all the changes that have happened, and then secondly, a big policy issue that you would attack first. And that polarity seems to me to represent the complexity of what we are hearing. Mario.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ben. And yeah, indeed, be difficult to do it like in 1 minute what I have, but it's fine. I think my starting point would be the pandemic. Okay, so we had a trend before the pandemic. Now the pandemic basically it was a dramatic stress test for everything that happened. It just put everything to an extreme, including telework. So we basically all the problems exploded. So my suggestions for the coming years, for the time in which we will have a post-pandemic world, will be like not to forget the lesson that we learned during the pandemic, because in a sense it's a very, very nice opportunity. No, there is that risk. For example, the CEO of WeWork a few months ago actually managed to say that to spot the most engaged and committed employees, you should look at those who are going to come back to the office. Okay, so which for me it looks crazy, but he said that, and somehow. I think it's emblematic of a tendency that could happen in a few years' time, in which you will have, like, for example, employers coming back to believe that the most committed employees are those who are, like, really in the office. Okay, so we need actually to instead, to keep in mind what we learned, that actually people can be very productive also from home, but you need to establish the right safeguards. So the priority, to respond to your question, is for me to design the right regulatory framework, as also Angelo mentioned. We need to see what is the right instruments for that, but the European Union the European Commission is working on this. together with the social partners, and I think this is the right way to do it. There's not something that you can just leave it to the market.
Mario, beautifully done. Thank you. A lovely closing thought. And on that CEO of WeWork, he would say that, wouldn't he? But thank you very much, and hope to see you again soon. I know Angelo has some time pressures. Angelo, may I ask you a personal discovery from what has happened to us all, and then one big policy area that you would tackle were you king for a day?
Yeah, thank you, Benny. So, it's difficult, but as I said before, when we talk about new way of working, we have to talk also about economic and social methods. And I think there is a starting point and reflection. With the pandemic, poverty and inequalities are increasing, and we need to choose. We need to choose the technology. Digitalization must be a driver for the distribution of wealth, for improving the quality of life, or if technologies and digitalization must foster the concentration of wealth. As unfortunately the reality is showing us. So the question is, do we intend to develop policies to foster the redistribution or concentration of wealth? And this is the question to answer for our program.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Angelo, and I thank you for the slight revolutionary note, which is infusing for us all. Thank you. Eero, may I move to you? A personal reflection and a big policy area you would tackle were you king for a day?
Yeah, I appreciate this opportunity. So let me first say that I also very much I'm enjoying the richness of the discussion, which shows that there are so many dimensions here. It's really hard for anyone to digest everything that's coming up. And I especially appreciate the comments I heard, or the headlines that were also more concrete. Some of them very much down to the practical level versus perhaps the high-level presentations that we were, or comments that we were providing at the beginning. But what's the personal learning point? I think for a scholar who's interested in organizing and decision-making, this has been a very special time. And I think one of the interesting things is to see how some of these trends are also providing new challenges. For instance, the themes I mentioned in terms of demands to be more inclusive, to empower people versus then being agile in decision making. So that's a classical conflict oftentimes in organizations. So the learning points are about how to succeed in this. And also I heard from the comments from the breakout group some really good issues being brought up as kinds of solutions like trust or communication, or maybe it was too much communication, but I would take that as good communication is very helpful. Then about the second issue in terms of what's the policy impact, let me put it the other way around and challenge the idea that we could deal with all issues by regulation. Let me put it very clearly. I'm not one of those who just say that let's proceed with deregulation. But I'm just saying that there are so many issues that are context specific that there's no way of developing policies that would cover all those issues for workers or companies or for industries. So I think it's down to the different companies and other organizations also to make sense of what's possible and what the people within those organizations would be willing to accomplish. I'll stop here. Thanks.
Eero, thank you. Great thoughts to lead the discussion with. Thank you. And Irene, may I pass to you a personal reflection, and if there was one big area you could make an impact on quickly, what would it be?
Yeah, I would say that one of the most important, for Sweden at least during the last year, is that the social partners really has made a new agreement on not just about wages and labor law, but also about education, possibilities to education throughout the entire work life. And this has really been a tripartite constellation that has been successful. And we have a lot of experience that, but they haven't succeeded to reach an agreement, but this time they have been successful. And this really makes it possible for people during their entire work life to go back to education for a shorter period of time, on full-time or part-time, and that even all different wage earner organization has, not everybody, but a lot of them has adapted this new strategy, which I think is very important for Sweden in the future.
Irene, thank you. The lovely idea that we have all become learning organisations in one sense. Thank you very much. Speakers, you were absolutely brilliant and thought-provoking. Thank you. May I hand back to Gerardo, because we'll now, I think, see Raquel's latest visualization, I think.
Yeah, and I just hand over to Raquel. So Raquel, please.
Thank you so much. I'll just end up with just a couple of words. I know we're tight with time. A lot of different perceptions here. We need to speak together, as we saw here with these speakers, with various different views coming together and really giving a lovely, rich perspective.
Raquel, please. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yes. So,
But we see Irene.
Again,
Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah.
okay, sorry. Okay, so new ways of working.
Yeah.
Okay. So as we saw here, a rich tapestry, different perceptions, thinking about very context-specific discussions as well, as notions of inclusivity, and the idea that we really want to have this kind of life-wide learning as well as lifelong learning. I'll leave it with that.
Okay, thank you. And then Raquel work will be available for all the participants. Okay, so her harvesting will be available for the participants. So it's we are almost over with the time. So I wish to thank you, our speakers, and thank you all the participants here and the participants online. And I wish to thank you also Sandra, Dirk, that have been hosting the online participants. And I wish you a good lunch. It's lunchtime now, and a good conference as an overall experience. Okay, thank you very much, and enjoy.